Hello, welcome to this presentation about the EQAS Food Association EQAS Food Accreditation Scheme. My name is Richard Marshall and I'm Chairman of the Accreditation Commission for IFA. The EQAS Food Association is an independent European non-profit organisation that was founded in 2005. It comprises members from university institutions, research institutes, companies and associations that are related to food. We have a worldwide membership, both individual and corporate, and if you're not a member yet, you really ought to join. This is a snapshot of our homepage, and on that homepage you can see all the activities that IFA undertakes. I do recommend that you have a look at it. It's www.iseki-food.net and you can find lots of useful resources there as well as information about us. IFA's mission is to support lifelong learning in the food sector, encompassing both academia and industry. So we're trying to enhance the bridges between universities and the food industry. We're also helping teachers and trainers to improve the efficiency of their teaching by providing them with new pedagogic understanding, new pedagogic tools which they can use in their teaching and bring more effective teaching into universities. So this also helps students to gain knowledge more easily. It brings home the teaching to them. It makes the teaching more student-centred and so not just by simple rote learning. We also support industry staff and food professionals to help them make more use of the research results that are being generated in industry. So we're providing that bridge between the researchers in academia and the end users in the industry who often don't get to hear of what's going on, and that link is very, very important. And we also help researchers around the world to form collaborative groups. Now you may be asking, well, why do we want to have accreditation? Well, if you know anything about the food industry, you'll know perfectly well that there are international standards in food science and technology that the industry uses to assure quality of its products. For example, they're the ISO standards, there's the BRC Global and other quality assurance standards. And these are very, very important because they help to ensure not only food safety, but also the quality of food that is being sold to consumers. Within academia, most universities are subject to some sort of quality assurance review. It may be internal, it may be external. It particularly happens when universities are reviewing their existing programs or starting new programs, and a panel will be set up that has representatives from within the university and very often representatives from outside the university. And documentation is put together that shows how a particular course is being delivered, the resources that that course has, the staff that are on that course, and the performance of students in the past. And so hopefully the course will be approved, maybe subject to some conditions, and it goes ahead. So it has a quality review, it's been approved. And of course, you've only got to look at some of the other professions, particularly medicine and engineering, those subjects allied to medicine. They all have particular standards that are set by the various professional bodies. Now, universities are international. They're no longer working entirely in isolation for just the students from their country. They're recruiting from abroad, and it's a very, very important activity for them. The Bologna process, which was started a number of years ago, has helped with the standardisation of higher education. We now have a more standard structure for first, second and third cycle degree programmes. So we have 3 years in the first cycle, 2 years in the second and 3 years for PhD. We also have some standardisation of the credits, the ECTS, that are applied to the different courses. Although there's still some variability in that, nevertheless the range has narrowed somewhat. part of the activities of Bologna has to help the movement of students between countries, so that if they have a number of credits from a course that they've taken in one country, they can go and complete their studies or take one short course, half a module or something in another country, and if they pass those modules, those courses, they can then take them back, and it forms part of their overall program, their overall qualification. And that cross-recognition is very, very important. And once students are qualified, once they become graduates, it's important that their qualifications that they have are recognised across all countries where they may wish to work. So that if they have a BSc or a Master's from the UK, they can go and work using those qualifications within Germany, within Greece, within any other country within Europe, and hopefully with any other country abroad, outside of Europe. So how can we compare the quality of institutions? How do we know that one institution that's delivering a food science and technology program is actually delivering stuff to a satisfactory, to an international standard? Well, of course, there are quality review and assurance programs, and many of them are transnational already. And current examples include the EQAS, or European Accredited Engineer program, whereby engineers can get onto an accredited course, and therefore they know that the course is of a certain high standard. Similarly, we have the Euro Bachelor and the Euro Master for Chemistry, which provide the quality assurance for those programs. So, why do we want to accredit food science courses? Why particularly? Well, for a start, food is one of the most important, if not the most important product around the world. Nobody can live without food. So we need to make sure that the food supply is of the very best. And so the teaching of food science and technology within universities needs to be recognised, and it needs to be recognised that it is of a high quality. There has to be a core quality there. The minimum standards, the minimum content that is in these programs, these degree programs, has to be there. The key areas of chemistry, physics, microbiology, food safety and things like that all need to be there. Of course, there may be specialisms on top of that. A course may specialise more in sensory or more in engineering, something like that. So there will be differences between courses. But nevertheless, there has to be a core there of the substance that we can rely on. And of course, most universities want to promote their course internationally. They want to bring in students from around the world. Not only is that good for them, but it's also good for the students, because the students get to a wider experience because of that. And so then they can take that forward into their future careers, and they become better employees for all that experience. Within Europe, we've actually had a tuning of the subjects that are delivered in higher education since 2000. And that means that there are fewer courses which are out on a limb. That yes, courses still have distinctiveness in the way they're delivered in the detailed contents, but we know that there are some minimum standards that are being set that courses have to meet. And again, it helps students move from one university to another. It helps with the transnational recognition of the courses that they've completed. And so all that has led towards the creation of specialised awards in different subject areas. I already mentioned the engineers and the chemistry awards, and now we are working to get accreditation for food science courses across Europe and across the world. We have set up the EQAS Food Accreditation Scheme. So what are the objectives of this scheme? Well, first of all, to provide a knowledge base for educational qualifications in food studies in the European higher education area. That's the primary area, but of course we're also working towards international, outside of Europe, so that universities from outside Europe, anywhere, can apply for accreditation. we are covering just the first and second cycle degrees. We're not going for third cycle, mainly because there are too many variations in third cycle where it's a research program that the students are following, but we're looking at the core of the first and second cycle, the BSc and the Master's programs. Another objective is to help increase the quality of the courses, to make sure that they meet those minimum standards, that they have the core competencies that are in there, that the students get the knowledge that they need for their future careers, and also that the efficiency of the teaching is actually at its best. Universities are under a lot of pressure these days, and there will be a tendency to constrain what we call the staff-student ratio, so that they tend to have fewer staff and rather more students. And so the teaching needs to be of the very best quality, and it needs to be delivered as efficiently as possible. We want to make sure that our food science and technology degrees are recognised, that they're recognised as having an internationally high standard and not just a local standard that may or may not be very good. And we want to facilitate the mobility of students within food science area. So as I said before, a student who is studying in one university, let's say in the UK, can go to a university, let's say in France or Germany or Hungary or wherever, and do either a module or a year or maybe even more, and then they can put together all their results, all the credits that they've got, and they will come out with a substantive qualification. Too often in the past it's been that the students may go and study there, but they're not allowed to bring back those credits because their home institution won't recognise the fact that they have studied abroad in terms of their qualification. And of course it's also to facilitate the movement of professionals. We as professionals in the food science and technology area, teachers or other people within the profession who are working within the industry, want to be able to move around, and we need to have that cross recognition of the qualifications that we have, of the knowledge that we have, so that we can take that anywhere we want to work for our careers. Now, although I said it's about the European higher education area, our scheme is not just about Europe. It is actually for all higher education institutions that teach food studies anywhere in the world, any country. Now, obviously, it can be more difficult for us to review the programs in certain countries, but it's nevertheless, that's one of our key objectives. Again, it is for the BSc and MSc courses, and it's for standard courses, that is courses where the students go to the university and they study, they take classes within the university, but it's also for the increasing number of distance learning programs where students come online, they study, they go through the various work programs that the staff and the university are putting up there. Of course, they may attend various workshops to get some practical experience, but not every course now has full practical experience. So let me give you an outline of the EQAS Food Award. Right. There are two routes to accreditation. Firstly, there is the standard, or what we might call fast-track route, and that's for institutions that have undergone a recent quality review. So if they have just revalidated their program, or they have a new program and they've got the documentation for that, they can use that documentation to apply for the EQAS Food Award. On the other hand, there may be institutions where there hasn't been a prior review, or it hasn't taken place for a long time, and they need to provide additional documentation, and that's our extended route. So this slide shows the summary of the standard route. So the institution applies to the Accreditation Commission of IFA, and they provide the documentation from a prior review to the Commission. That covers the learning outcomes that we specify in our scheme documentation, with any additional information that may be needed to explain how the course is delivered, the resources, perhaps the CVs of the staff and so on. It can cover one program or a group of programs. And of course it's very effective if you've got several programs that are in the food science and technology area, maybe pure food science, food and consumer studies, food with nutrition, something like that. Then obviously that might well be all grouped together and makes a much better group, much easier way of accrediting things. Well, that documentation then undergoes review by a team of assessors. And the team is composed of teachers, of university lecturers, and industry specialists who understand what should be in food science and technology in terms of the industry's needs. And so by reviewing that documentation, they can then make a decision on the award based on the information that's contained. And that decision is then communicated to the Accreditation Commission, and a recommendation goes forward to the IFA board, and the institution will then receive the award. The extended route is similar, but there are some small differences. Firstly, the institution has to write a self-evaluation report that brings together all the learning outcome standards and additional information as I described before. And again, it can include one program or a group of programs. This then undergoes review by the assessors, but because the institution hasn't had this external review previously, then we will undertake a 2-day audit. When we come to the institution, we examine how they deliver the course, we talk to the students, we look at the facilities, discuss things with the staff and so on. And that helps us get an understanding of how the course is being delivered and the level of quality. Again, we make a decision on the basis of the reports and the audit, and that then is communicated to the Accreditation Commission. So the steps then are that, first of all, the higher education institution applies to the Accreditation Commission. They submit either a summary of a prior review plus any additional documentation to support that review, or they write a self-evaluation document containing the prescribed information. We then look at that documentation and we assess their programs against the standard criteria that we've defined. And we do have a set of minimum learning outcomes for first and second degree levels. That is then assessed by our expert panel. And as I say, we have a senior student who is involved with the extended route. The documentation is reviewed, an audit may take place depending on the route, and we write a report which is given to the Accreditation Commission to decide on the award. The Accreditation Commission makes one of two decisions based on the recommendations from the panel. Either the EQAS award is given, or it's deferred until particular conditions that we've defined have been met. And those conditions might be something to do with facilities, it might be something to do with the way the course is delivered, it might be something to do with the content of the course. There could be various aspects to that. Now, once the award has been made, that means that that course has achieved recognition of international peers. So because the team of assessors may not come from the country of the institution, it shows that the standards are of an international level. And we award accreditation label, which the institution can then use to support its quality programs. The course there is a recognised international standard. And of course there's an incentive there for the institution to improve and develop, because it wants to maintain that award, it wants to be seen to be delivering high quality education, and so a strong incentive to actually improve.
Now, about the fees. We have to charge them fees, of course. It's a valuable commodity that we're providing, and so the fees for the standard route are going to be about €3,000. Extra courses, additional programs, by negotiation.
The extended route, of course, is going to be more expensive because it covers all the administrative costs, the travel and the accommodation and so on. And so the fees for that are 7,000 to 10,000 euro, depending on how much travel, how much administration and so on is involved. We can, obviously, if we have several courses to review at the same time, then the additional cost is relatively small. And we might consider reviewing the courses in institutions, in adjacent institutions, if they're not too far apart, whereby it means sort of only one sort of visit to a country within a very short period. What does the university and the course get? Well, they get international recognition of our the standards. They get quality enhancement because the standards are raised over time. They get comparability with other institutions, so it forms a benchmark. We know that the courses have met a key standard. Institutions that have received the award are then part of a worldwide network that delivers high quality teaching in food science and technology. And also, the institution has the privilege of promoting their course using the EQAS food label, which will help them with their recruitment and also student satisfaction, because the students know that they're getting something which is of a very high standard. In addition to the accreditation of our degree programs, we can also accredit short courses through the EQAS food certificate. It follows the same sort of principles, but it just gives a certification of the delivery, the quality of short courses. That there might be a specialist course in food safety, food quality, or something like that that somebody is organising. They can give us a simple application, get a quick decision, and they can use our logo in their publicity and on delegate certificates to show that it's met these key standards. So what are the next steps? Well, if you wish to apply, do so. Apply now for accreditation. We're working towards extending the scheme to the broader food studies, to engineering and nutrition, and so even if your courses are in those areas, please do apply. And if you're running a short course in the food science and technology area, you can apply for certification. If you wish to know more, go to our web pages. There's all the information there, plus a lot of other information and useful resources. Or send us an email to eqas@isekifood.net. Thank you very much for your attention.